What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Inside Inter Miami, the Miami Herald show about the Inter Miami Soccer Club, which is now in the Final Four of Major League Soccer's playoffs. I'm Andre Fernandez, your host, joined as always by Michelle Coffin, our Inter Miami beat writer. Exciting times for this franchise as they continue to go further than they've ever gone before, and something that they've been waiting for a long time with number 10 in the lineup ever since they signed him and put this extraordinary cast around him. But having the cast on the field was one thing. Making all the pieces fit a certain way is quite another thing. And we're going to talk at length about that today, how Javier Mascherano's long-awaited switch that many fans were clamoring for. He finally did it. He benched Luis Suarez. He brought in the 19-year-old phenom, Matteo Silvetti. And not only did he play, not only did it work, they won 4-0 over Cincinnati on the road in a hostile environment. Michelle was there. She's going to talk about not only the environment, but what happened. Miami ended up not only winning, but dominating Cincinnati 4-0 to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time ever. Matteo Silvetti scored and assisted on a goal, so he didn't just run around and help out. No, he made an impact himself as Suarez watched from the bench and later came in toward the end of the game. And then some more good news for the club as New York City FC pulls one off at Philadelphia, 1-0 victory, a very defensive game, and they are headed to the conference finals. But guess what? That means Chase Stadium will now host the conference final, and as we knew, if Miami advances and gets to the MLS Cup, that'll also be here. So home field through what's left for this club right now. We're going to dive into all of that and talk a little bit about the game, preview the next round against New York City FC, and a nod to the Haitian soccer team, which has qualified for the World Cup. Incredible story there. We'll get reaction from Fafa Pico about that, about his home country making history. Of course, we'll have plenty of reaction from Javier Mascherano after the win as well. But let's start. Michelle, you were there. They were lighting those pink smoke bombs on the streets. They were fired up.
Orange,
orange. I'm sorry.
Orange.
Pink is at home. I got pink and black on my
You're
mind.
thinking pink.
But they were lighting those on the streets. They were getting ready to probably tear down light posts and cars and all of that, getting ready to take down Messi and the crew. Far from is what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I had mentioned, and Taylor Twellman mentioned before last week that TQL Stadium is a really good venue for MLS. It's loud. The fans there were, I mean, the only pink that I saw in that stadium pretty much was one little section of 60 La Familia members who traveled from Miami. And that's it. There was a little tiny pink speck in that stadium. That stadium was in royal blue with orange trim, and that's it. They were very fired up for this game. They absolutely thought, they beat Miami 3-0 the last time they played there in July with all of Miami stars on that same field in July. They dominated Miami 3-0, and the fans there were very excited for that game. I know that their team was pumped up for that game, but Miami came out, the way they had played against Nashville in the final game, which was 4-0. They've now won the last two games. They've scored 8 goals and allowed none. 2 clean sheets and 8 goals scored. It is really, really impressive what they've done the last 2 games. And this game on the road, not at home, on the road to beat a very good Cincinnati team with Evander, with Brenner and all this stuff, Denke, they were rendered, invisible. I mean, they just really couldn't get anything going. Miami, first of all, we're going to talk more in depth about Messi, of course, but the man continues to just do so many things for this team at age 38. He scores the first goal, and got everything going. But in addition to that, he has 3 assists, and the way he was defending, the team as a whole just played so well. The previous week, Mascherano said they played a near perfect game. This week, I think he's actually said they played a perfect game. Offensively, defensively, the team just rose to the occasion. They rose to the occasion. They were intense from the very first minute of the game, they wanted this badly. And you can just see, you can sense, even though a lot of these star players on this team have won trophies bigger than the MLS Cup. They've won World Cups and La Liga and whatever, UEFA Champions Cups, but they want this MLS Cup. This is something this club has never had. They know that they are expected to win it. They know that their roster and payroll is different from the entire rest of the league. They are expected to play in the final and win it. And they're playing like that right now. They really are playing like that right now. And
I
yes,
think,
Suarez. Yes,
yeah,
Suarez,
yeah,
you know, that what's the common denominator? I mean, I feel bad for him
yeah.
personally, but the last two games, Suarez didn't play, and the last two games they won 8-0, the two games.
Yeah, and the mental side of it. I mean, think about the grind this team's been through together. 56 matches this year, all over the place, all over the country, all over the world. It creates a bond. I mean, I don't care how old you are, I don't care how much you've accomplished. It creates
It's
something.
61, yeah, including the preseason. It's 61 games, including the
61 even.
preseason.
Right, but even
Yeah,
just for the ones that count, 56.
yeah.
I mean, and think of the sense of pride too on a couple levels. I mean, for one, it's like you said, they almost have this us against the world treatment because the rest of MLS is out to beat them on the field anyway. And then think about it for a lot of these veteran guys. I mean, obviously for Jordi Alba and for Sergio Busquets, this is it.
This
So
is it.
that's motivation enough.
Yeah, their families were there. They had their families, their wives, Busquets and Alba, their entire extended families were there.
Right.
Their wives and their kids, and I think maybe even parents or whatever. They
Right.
had a big family group thinking that could have been the last game for them.
Right.
Ever.
And it could have been. But also not just that, but then think of the pride factor of we've still got it at 38, 39, 37, whatever age everybody is, to prove we're not has-beens. We can still do this. We can still win a championship, win it together, all of that. So all of that, to your point, is the motivation right now for this team, on top of just the fact that I think they cracked the code. I think this is the full monster, full abilities out on the field now. And it's going to be pretty darn hard to stop if you're one of these last three other teams. New York, of course, is going to get the brunt of it next Saturday at Chase Stadium. But whoever comes out the other side on the Western Conference, if Miami advances too, like any of these three teams that are left, I know Vancouver handled them. Out of the three remaining, the one that handled them the worst was Vancouver earlier in the season in the Champions Cup. But still, this is a much different team, and that feels like a decade ago.
Yeah, and the thing about taking out Suarez, we're going to hear from Mascherano. It was a very difficult decision for him, and a lot of people, a lot of fans, because believe me, a lot of fans have opinions about Luis Suarez and whether he should have been playing, whether he should have been starting or not. And a lot of people said he should not be starting. Mascherano surely knows that, but he doesn't have the guts to bench him, or he can't bench him because he's Messi's very close friend, and he's obligated to play Luis Suarez. I think there was a feeling that Mascherano was kind of obligated to play Luis Suarez even when he had a dip in his performance, because last year he was really good. Last year he covered he carried the team when Messi was out last year. He had an incredible year last year. He really did. This year he has not been as good, and the change was needed. The question was, did Mascherano have the freedom to make that change, or were his hands tied? We don't know the conversations that go on behind closed doors, and especially with Lionel Messi being his close friend and all that. But he did. And by the way, I think there was a little bit of gamesmanship that went on before the game to throw off Cincinnati, to make them think that Suarez was going to start, because on Saturday, we asked Mascherano Saturday morning, that game you guys played the other day against Nashville was so good with Silvetti in there, with Messi as the false nine, and then Silvetto and Tadeo Allende on his two sides, guys who can run deep and get the deep balls. And we said, do you think you would play that same lineup again? Is it possible that Luis is going to come off the bench against Cincinnati? And he was pretty dismissive of it. He said, well, that would be very disrespectful to Luis, and we've played 55 games and we've won 37 or whatever, and Luis was on the field for the majority of those games. He was saying things that would lead you to believe that he was going to start Suarez. And he said, but you'll have to wait till tomorrow to see the decision I make, but it would be disrespectful. And we did very well with Luis on the field, blah, blah, blah. Then the club. Now, think what you want of it. 6 hours before kickoff, they post on their social media, the club, a picture of one player only, Luis Suarez. And it said, it's time, game time, semifinal time, whatever. And it had Luis Suarez standing there with his arms crossed. That was it. So they post a photo of Luis Suarez on the day of the game, 6 hours before the game. To me, it was a little like maybe try to keep Cincinnati guessing that Luis Suarez is going to play. Anyway, then the lineups come out. I know I'm very cynical.
It's not a little, it's a lot.
Journalist. I'm very cynical, but I've been a sports writer for 39 years, and I have reason to have that cynicism.
I'm with
they'll
you.
do whatever.
Social media
they do whatever
directed
they have to do.
Yeah. So yeah. No,
the team's social media, believe me, everyone who works for that club, their objective is for the team to win. And that goes down to the social media team. Everyone on that team is trying to make the team win. And if they can even have any impact whatsoever on what the opponent is thinking, they're going to do it.
That's why when you win a title, they all get rings, because they all play a little tiny.
Everyone plays a part. Everyone plays a role, and they threw up that picture of Luis Suarez, making everyone think, oh, well, he's going to play. They wouldn't put a picture of Luis Suarez if he's not going to. Anyway, I had heard, actually, to be honest with you, I had heard 1 hour before, a little before 1 hour before the game, a source had told me that Suarez was not going to start. And I started sort of writing that just in case. And then the rest of the lineups came out. He was not there. Silvetti was there. And, the team, it has a different dynamic. They can play a different way. And Mascherano said, we're going to hear from him now, that, the idea was that Cincinnati is a team that plays a lot of one-on-one defense, and there wasn't going to be too much room for them to move around and whatever. They didn't want to hold the ball. They wanted to play into spaces instead of holding the ball. And in order to play into spaces, the characteristics that Silvetti and Allende have, which is speed and youth, that is what Luis Suarez could not provide at the same level. And that's why they made that decision. And it was a great decision. We saw what happened. It was a great decision. So let's hear what Javier Mascherano. We know it was a difficult decision for him. Let's hear what he said.
Claramente para mí no es una decisión fácil cuando tenés que sacar a un jugador como Luis, con su trayectoria, con la importancia que tiene en el equipo y en el club. Pero también tengo que decir que es admirable cómo él tomó la decisión, ¿no? Porque bueno, lo hablamos en la semana, lo entendió, ayudó a sus compañeros, entrenó de la mejor manera, estuvo siempre detrás, y creo que ha mostrado la grandeza que tiene como jugador y como persona, porque sabemos que bueno, muchas veces cuando tenés que tomar estas decisiones puede ser que del otro lado sea difícil entenderlo, y la verdad que ha sido un claro ejemplo de cómo está por la labor, lo que quiere para el equipo, para el grupo, y le ha dado un gran mensaje a sus compañeros sobre todo. Así que nada, y en cuanto a la decisión, creíamos que bueno, quizás era un partido más para atacar espacios, tanto con Tadeo como con Toto. Y bueno, creo que el perfil de ellos daba, ¿no? Porque bueno, veíamos que Cincinnati normalmente es de igualar mucho, sobre todo de emparejar en todo el campo. Entonces entendíamos que íbamos a estar muchas veces con poco tiempo para jugar, y teníamos que encontrar una línea más, y esa línea más a veces no iba a ser de aguantar, sino de ir al espacio. y bueno, lo pensamos así, pero bueno, al final los partidos lo hacen bueno los jugadores, la interpretación, el nivel que ha mostrado hoy el equipo. Nosotros simplemente tratamos de sugerirle cosas, nada más.
Okay, so he talked about, it was a very difficult decision. He said to sit down a player of Luis Suarez's history, of his stature, a player who's done so much for the game, for the team, for the club, to sit him down was a very difficult decision. And he said, but, we spoke about it early in the week. So, by the way, obviously, when he spoke to us Saturday morning, he already knew. He knew that he had made that decision already to bench Luis Suarez. And then, he told us, oh, it would be very difficult. That would be disrespectful to him. Well, he said that they spoke early in the week and made that decision. And he went on and on, by the way, not only in this clip, but later in the press conference about how Luis handled it, that it was very, very impressive the way he handled the situation. He said that he understood it. He said he understood. He trained hard for the whole week. He said he was helping his teammates. He was doing everything he could for the team, and that it shows what kind of person, what kind of player, and what kind of person he is, that all he cared about was the team, and that he didn't sulk. He didn't make it about himself. It was all about the team, and that was a great example for the rest of the players, the way he handled the news. And he said later, by the way, in the other clip, that in the other part of the press conference, that the victory began with Luis Suarez accepting the news the way he did, because he said when he did that, it showed the unity and the camaraderie of this team. And Mascherano said he felt very good going into this game when he saw how Luis handled the news and how that unified the team as a group. He saw that as a very good sign going into the game. Anyway, back to the clip. Translation, he said, the way Luis handled it was very impressive. And then he said that the idea was, as I had mentioned before, that they needed to work into space. They needed to get the ball into space. And the best way to do that was going to be with Silvete and Tado Allende to the sides of Messi. But at the end of the day, you can make all the plans and suggest things, but it's the players who make the difference, not the coach. It's the players who make the difference. And they played great, and look where they are. So, it is impressive. I know that Luis Suarez is a kind of a, controversial figure, I guess you would say, in the sense that he's been suspended for spitting, for biting, for all these different
Right.
things.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
No. I was going to bring that up if you didn't, about how, like, sometimes, especially players of his magnitude, of his accomplishments, his career at this point, we always see guys, this, Michelle, because we're on the inside. We get to cover these guys. We get to talk to them sometimes, all that, get to know them a little better. But people sometimes will make their own judgments about someone from far away and all of that. These guys, you know, immediately some people think, oh, they're egomaniacs and this and that, whatever. And yes, there's a certain, mystique about them and all that. But look, with the temper issues and all everything you were saying right now, look, that's classy what he did, to be a good teammate like that, especially at this point in his career. Not everybody does that.
Not only that, I mean, to be honest, and I think I had mentioned it maybe sometime earlier in the year or whatever. Luis Suarez, he is really thoughtful and introspective in the press conferences and the times that we've gotten to speak with him. He really does seem, and I've gotten to speak with him one-on-one and in a group setting. He seems like a very nice person. He really does. He seems like a good guy. He does not seem like a bad guy, even though he is the bad boy people think of the team, who's always with his arms up and he's yelling and he's whatever. Yeah. I think my take on him, from being a little more on the inside, not that I'm his best friend, but, is that he is incredibly passionate about the game. He wants to win, at all costs. He wants to win. Yeah. And you could see, even when he finally got in the game the other day, which was very late in the game was already decided. It wasn't even, whatever he did or didn't do was not going to make much of a difference at that point. Okay. They were going to win that game. and they put him in, which on some level has to be a little bit humiliating. You're Luis Suarez and you're sitting the whole game of this really important game.
And you come in garbage
when he
time.
went in there,
yeah.
He went in there like gangbusters. He went in there running super intense and trying really, really hard. You could see it. And I think the way he handled this news, which you and I have both been sports writers for a long time, some athletes would not have handled a benching like that, the way he did. And I think he really does care about the team. And really what he wants is to win. He wants to win. He's incredibly competitive. Messi is too. And, he obviously has a temper issue that during the game, he has a hard time controlling that intensity that he has to win. And it's resulted in a big stain on his legacy, which is a shame.
Yeah.
But the way he handled it this week is really impressive. And, the truth is, sure, he's not going to, there's no way they're not going to start him now the next game either. He's going to be on the bench.
And look, I'm sure he doesn't like it, but how many times have we seen, especially in soccer, how this, if he would have gone the other way with this, it's could have been a big distraction, and it all would have been headlines left and right. And Suarez is pissed, and now the dissension on the team. We've seen it before in many sports.
Yeah.
So I think that at the core, whether he liked it or not, whether he smiled, but at the core, the fact that he put on a face, maybe it was legit, but whatever the case may be, he did what was needed for the team by not making this a big distraction on the eve of this monumental game, and it paid off. And now, let's see how they handle it the next 2 weeks. If he keeps it that way, they're good, because on the field, this attack was, like you said before, this is on fire. They're playing at a much faster pace. And we're going to get to a Mascherano clip now talking about just the blowout and how they were able to do it. But hats off again, Michelle, this defense that we ripped apart so many times during the season, deservedly so during the season, has been much better in recent games.
Who would ever think that this team of all teams, that this team is going to have clean sheets, 0-0 against two very good teams. Nashville and Cincinnati are good teams who know how to score with really big players. We're talking about big players who can score on both of those teams. And they were able to shut out both of those teams in back-to-back games when it mattered most.
Right. So let's hear from Javier Mascherano talking about the way they just took apart Cincinnati.
Pero sobre todo entender la forma, ¿no? Creo que hoy el equipo, más allá de si el resultado era otro, hubiese estado igual de orgulloso de cómo jugó el equipo en un campo muy, muy difícil, contra un rival muy, muy difícil. Y creo que desde el primer minuto entendimos que acá no era un tema de especular, era ir por el partido, ser nosotros mismos. Y el mensaje de que mientras más grande es el objetivo y más grande es el escenario, más cerca tenemos que estar de nuestras convicciones y más cerca tenemos que estar de lo que somos. Y creo que hoy los jugadores han tenido una personalidad para jugar increíble en todo momento y han hecho un partido prácticamente perfecto.
Okay, he said almost perfect. All right, he didn't say perfect, almost perfect. He said that it wasn't just that they won the game, it was the way they played the game. He said whether we had won or lost this game, I would have been proud of the way they played, because he said our team realized from the opening minute that we could not be cautious. This was a very difficult opponent in a very difficult place to play, and we knew we could not be cautious. We had to go for the game. We had to be ourselves from day one. And he said, the bigger the moment, the bigger the objective, the closer we have to be to our convictions and to who we are. And he felt that his team did that to almost to near perfection to win this game. He said that from the beginning to the end, they were following their convictions and they played the way that they know that they could play, but that they had not always played during this season, to be honest. Sometimes they had slow starts, whatever, we've seen it. The last two games, they are imposing themselves on these other teams, and they are showing what I think this Inter Miami team, these last two games, this is what people envision
This
when
is
you
it.
put all those
Yep.
pieces together. This is what you envision is this team. This is what they're doing these last two games. And yeah, they have two to go. And in the middle of all of it is that little man number 10. He is in the middle of all of it. And by the way, I'm just going to give you a couple stats on him because you don't even know where to begin on the superlatives. Okay. During the playoffs, he has just already set an MLS playoff record with 2 rounds still to go, which is that he's had 6 goals and 6 assists in 4 playoff games. 6 goals, 6 assists, 12 contributions to goals in 4 games. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, in the past 7 games, past 7 matches, Messi has had 11 goals and 11 assists. 11 goals, 11 assists over the past 7 games.
Those are seasons.
And one more.
Those are seasons.
Unbelievable.
Those are seasons for
That's
some
a
people.
season. Those are seasons. And one more. In the last 25 goals that Inter Miami has scored, the last 25 goals that Miami has scored, Lionel Messi has contributed to 22 of the 25 goals. So, I mean, if that man isn't the MVP, I don't know who's an MVP.
I know. Yeah. That, I mean,
of not only of his team, the league of whatever. The guy
of everything.
At age 38.
Well, that's why he's won, what is it, 8 Ballon d'Oros at this point? What is it? It's
Yes.
like 8 of them? Yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
8.
That's
8
why.
of them. I mean, the guy, and he does it in every which way. By the way, he scores on a header, on a bouncing header, and then 3 assists, beautiful through balls from deep. He ran deep and then sends these long through balls that you usually see Busquets do that kind of pass or whatever. He really can do it all. What can we say? The guy is a heck of a player. He really is.
And now this is what I meant before. Like now you're saying this was the vision. This is the end of the video game when the monster's unleashed, and this is the final boss. This is what we're looking at right here. This is it. Like this is the like I dare you to beat this. The monster's been unleashed. I think they've cracked the, like I said before, I think they've cracked the code. You said the secret sauce. You know, you would name your slogan. It's happening right now, and this team now is going to be hard to stop these last 2 rounds. But let's hear from Javier Mascherano again, talking about Messi's greatness.
Para mí es un orgullo y un privilegio no solamente dirigirlo a Leo, sino dirigir a este grupo de jugadores, ¿no? Claramente Leo sabemos lo que es, lo demuestra fin de semana tras fin de semana, es increíble. De nuevo hoy haciendo un trabajo sin pelota increíble porque con pelota ya sabemos lo que es, pero siendo el primer hombre iniciando las presiones, dirigiendo al equipo en cómo presionar. Y después es un privilegio dirigir a Leo, pero es un privilegio dirigir a Toto Avilés, al Chelo Weigan, a Frey, a Allen, a Bray, acompañar el crecimiento de estos chicos y al resto de los jugadores, ¿no? Porque, como dije ya hace tiempo, para conseguir los objetivos vamos a necesitar de todos, desde el primero hasta el último. Y bueno, hoy celebrar, disfrutar de esta noche, porque es una noche para celebrarla, para eso trabajamos, para celebrarlo, y a partir de mañana ya empezar a poner la cabeza en la final de conferencia.
All right, so I mean, he's been very good this year about, you know, he always gets asked about Leo, and he always praises Leo, but then he also always says about the other players. So as far as Leo goes, he says, you know, we all know what he is. It's a privilege to coach him. He said, you know, he's incredible. And especially what he did, he said he does it week in and week out. And again, tonight, he said not only what he does with the ball, we all know what he can do with the ball. He said, but on this night, what he did without the ball, that he was the one who was initiating the high press. He was the one who was leading the way in the high press, which is unbelievable. He said, incredible. And then he said, but it's not only a privilege to coach him, I also feel privileged to coach players like Toto Aviles, like Chelo Wygant, like Ian Frey, Noah Allen, Yannick Bright. He said, all of these young guys who are developing, and he said, I've said it all season, we need everybody. We need everybody's contributions to reach our objectives. And now we're going to celebrate tonight. He said, this is a night to celebrate. This is what we work for, these moments. But now it's time to focus on the Eastern Conference final.
Yeah, it's and New York City FC. So it's funny, the one team, we keep talking about all these previous chapters with all these potential opponents have not gone very well. They're actually the one team that it did go very well. In fact, it was also a 4-0 win up in New York the last time they played. I mean, maybe not to the dominant degree that they did on Cincinnati, considering now with the lineup change, but they still came out with a very good result. And this, let's preview this game a little bit, Michelle. That we looked at. New York City pulls off the victory 1-0 at Philadelphia, like we said before. But if you look at the numbers, Philly really played well in this game. They just couldn't find the goal. I mean, if you even look at, I think the expected goal was much better than New York's. I think it was like a 2.3, something like that. New York's was like a 0.7. They had more chances. I think they outshot them like 20-6. If Miami outshoots them 20-6, like I'm sitting here right now, they are not losing that game.
Right. No, Philly had a lot of shots in that game. And New York City, you're not going to say fortunate because they found a way to win. They found a way to win. They shut down Philadelphia.
The defense played great.
It was a difficult team. Their defense played great. And they are missing big players. They're missing, their big scorers, the big offense. Alonso Martinez is out injured. They have 4 or 5 players. Malachi Jones is out. Alonso Martinez, I'm reading their injury report. Aiden O'Neill is out. Keaton Parks, Andres Perea. So they've got several players out. That's another thing we have not mentioned real quick. I'm going to just mention it really quickly. Inter Miami, which has played more games than any other team in the league with all of these cups that they've played, the Champions Cup, the Leagues Cup, the Club World Cup. They've played it, like I said, counting preseason, 61 games. And I don't want to jinx it. I'll knock on wood right now while I'm saying it for them. But they are pretty injury-free when it matters most. They are not, they are very healthy considering their age and considering the wear and tear on their bodies after 61 games. They are in very, very good shape heading into this game. And New York City is nursing some big time injuries on top of everything and on top of the fact that they're going to have to play here in Miami. This is going to be a home game for Miami at Chase Stadium. And, and they're healthy and they are on fire right now. They've scored 8 goals in the last 2 games and allowed 0. I mean, they're on fire right now. If I were at New York City FC, I'd be a little bit nervous, I think.
Yeah, well, just a tad. But let's hear again from Coach about this matchup and the mindset this team has right now heading into it.
Ganar y hacer un gol más que el rival. Al final, el fútbol es eso. Hoy hablamos todo de un montón de cosas, pero al final el fútbol se gana con goles. Cuando haces un gol más que el rival, ganás, y cuando ganás vas avanzando. Creo que no tenemos que sacar el foco de lo importante. Para nosotros lo importante es el fin de semana que viene. Veremos cuál es el rival que toca y preparar el partido de la mejor manera como hemos preparado en estas 2 series, tanto con Nashville como Cincinnati. Pero creo que sería un gran error ir pensando mucho más allá de eso. Creo que los que me conocen y sobre todo ustedes que han estado en el día a día conmigo, ya llevamos mucho tiempo, siempre he dicho que el partido más importante es el próximo y vaya si el próximo es el más importante. Entonces, centrarnos en eso, tratar de estar concentrado, de entender que no se ha conseguido nada. No se ha conseguido nada, sí, estamos en una instancia que deseábamos, pero esto sigue y al estar tan cerca no vale la pena estar distrayéndose en otras cosas. Tenemos que estar por lo que estamos, que es trabajar, tratar de preparar el partido de la mejor manera y estar listos para el sábado para hacer un gran partido y que nos dé la opción de ganar y pasar a la final de la MLS.
Gracias, profe.
Gracias, hasta luego.
All right. So he was asked, what would it mean to you? The question was like, you're 2 games away from winning the championship. What would it mean to you and the team to win the championship and all that stuff? And what do you have to do? He said, what do you have to do in these next 2 games to reach that objective? And he said, it's very simple. We have to win and score one more goal than the opponent. He said, at the end of the day, we can talk. He said, after this game, we're talking about all these things about tactics and decisions and all this stuff. He said, at the end of the day, in soccer, all that matters is, did you win? If you score one more goal than your opponent, you're going to win the game. And that is true, by the way. We saw, New York City won 1-0, and they're in the same place as Miami, which won 4-0. So you just have to score one more than the opponent.
And they got
And he
outshot,
said,
outplayed, and they got shot. They got outplayed. They got the one goal. That's what matters.
They want the 1 goal advantage, and that's it. That's all you need to win the game and to advance. And he said, and I've been saying all season, he said that the next game is the most important game. And that remains true. The next game is the most important game. And he said it would be, wrong for us to look ahead, to start thinking about the championship game or winning the championship. He said, we don't need that distraction. He said, we have not achieved anything yet. He stressed, we have not achieved anything. Yes, we are in the place we wanted to be. We're where we want to be, but we haven't achieved anything yet. And we are so close. And he said, being so close, it would really be bad for us to now be distracted. We need to be completely focused on this next game on Saturday. And if we can win that, then look ahead to the game for the championship game. But he's stressing that they're not looking ahead at this point. They're so close, they don't want to look ahead.
Well, and they've been before, because look, they got to the League's Cup final, and that turned out to be a disaster up in Seattle. They advanced into the elimination rounds of the Champions Cup. That didn't happen. Last year they had tournaments like that. The Club World Cup we're not going to count because that was monumental for them just to get to the knockout stage.
Right.
But most
get there.
But they have gotten there and
they
fallen
reached the
short.
semis, right? They were in the semis.
Right.
They were in the semis of the CONCACAF Champion Cup. They were in the same. They were in the semifinals, which is what this basically is of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and lost that. They were in the final of League's Cup
Seattle
and lost
debacle, right? And
even
the League's Cup that they won had to go down to the wire, PKs, extra PKs.
Yes,
it's not easy, and they're on a big high right now, so they know they've got to channel this. Now, all that being said, and tell me, Michelle, if you probably might agree with me on this. I know they were coming off a 4-0 rout the last time they played, but this feels different, and it's because of the switch. It's because of the way that they won this game. It just feels a little different. It feels like they found something. But again, they have to kind of ground themselves and refocus and not have any hiccups here, against because now they're the favorite. Now they're the favorite. They were kind of.
Oh, they're the favorite. I've seen that the analysts are saying this team looks right now like the favorite. This team looks like the most complete team. All that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, before it was like, before everybody's favorite line, like, whether it was Taylor Twellman or the guys we brought on the show, it was like, oh, you shouldn't pick against Inter Miami, and it was like reasons why. Now it just feels like all that's been swept away and it's theirs for the taking. And we didn't have that feeling 3-4 weeks ago, a month ago. In fact, we had a lot of doubts, myself included.
This Luis Suarez move. And again, we don't want to blame Luis Suarez, poor guy, for all the troubles that the team.
You don't want to dump on him either, but
right. We don't want to dump on him, but the team dynamic, the way that they're playing right now in these 2 games, which happens to be without Luis, is that it's not only the offense, it's the defense. It's also because that speed and that youth of Silvetti. By the way, Silvetti's very good. The guy is 19 years old. He is 19 years old, and he played very well in the U20 World Cup for Argentina.
Yeah.
Okay. He had a very good tournament for the U20 World Cup in Argentina. The kid is a really good player. I remember when they signed him, we didn't really know much about him.
Yeah.
He comes from Rosario. He comes from Newell's Old Boys. He's cut from he's from the same town as Messi and all that. And when they signed him, and we asked Javier Mascherano about him, because Mascherano had coached him on the Argentina U20 team, and Mascherano said the thing about him is what's up here. he mentioned to us some phrase that he said, some Argentinian phrase that todos los muebles están en orden or something, like all the furniture.
Everything's in place. Yeah, that makes sense.
In his head. I don't know if you remember, I mentioned it when they signed him. He said that all the furniture is in place or whatever in his head. Is that one of the things he mentioned was that not only does he have the physical tools, which that we can see, he's a big, strong guy, he's fast and everything. I mean, that goal he scored was beautiful. But on top of that, Mascherano stressed that he's a very smart kid, that he's a really smart kid, and that he really understands the game. He understands the game, and you can already see him pairing with, with the other guys on the team, and he's playing older than a 19-year-old. He's playing older, much more mature than a 19-year-old. So they're good right now.
I'm disappointed that I'm not going to be able to see him play in the World Cup next year. But I think I was watching the game, and I turned and I told my wife, I'm like, this kid's going to be, not only is he going to be in the 2030 World Cup, he's going to be one of those key contributors for Argentina. Watch, this kid's going to have an amazing, barring anything unforeseen, he's going to be one of the next big impactful players for Argentina.
Yeah, and he's got the it factor. He's got a personality. He's a good speaker. He's very, emotionally shows his emotions and everything. I think the team they're looking really good. And of course, it could all crash down on Saturday. If NYC shuts them down, they have a good defense. They just showed it. But right now, I would say that Miami's the favorite. I would definitely say Miami's the favorite to win it all. And Vancouver is going to be the toughest one. We'd have to, but we don't even want to, as a journalist, I don't want to look ahead to that game either. We can talk about that game next week if that game comes to be to advance the final. I think we should focus right now on what's going to happen this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend and New York City FC. But we want to wrap up the show with something slightly related to Inter Miami because it impacts one of their key players, Fafa Pico. Tremendous story. And you wrote something on it, Michelle. The Haitian national team qualifying for the World Cup with everything that country's been through, especially in recent years, a humongous moment just for national pride, for like a feel-good story for the people of Haiti.
Yes, I mean, it's unbelievable, to be honest. It's the first time in 52 years that Haiti advances to a World Cup, and they have done it under the most duress, under the worst circumstances of any team in history. I mean, to be honest, they were not able to play a single home game. That has never happened in World Cup history. No team has qualified for a World Cup without playing a single qualifying match at home. They could not play at home because of the gang violence that's going on in that country. It is not safe to be there. It's not safe to play there. So they have to train away from home. They have to play away from home at a neutral site in Curacao, which is where they did a lot of their games. And there were like no crowds. They were playing in front of almost nobody. And they found a way to win, to get into the World Cup. And it's just such a feel-good story for a country that has so much going on and so much, economic despair and crime and gangs taking over and all this. And they've got a team in the World Cup now. And in Miami, there's a huge Haitian community in Miami, the Haitian diaspora. A lot of it is in Miami and New York City. And the people in Miami are so proud. There's so much Haitian pride right now in this team. And one of the players who's on the national team did not play in that game, in the qualifying game against Nicaragua. He didn't play in that game. Partly because he had been injured before, but then after that injury, he hasn't got much playing time with Inter Miami. When we asked him, he said, unfortunately, they didn't pick me for the team that game because he said, I really haven't had many minutes. I haven't had much playing time with Inter Miami, and that affected his selection. And also he had, because he had an injury in September, even though he's healthy now, Fafa has not been getting on the field lately, but he was still super proud and excited for the Haitian team. And we spoke to him about all of these things we're talking about. Let's hear from Fafa. Fafa, can you talk about the challenges that team faced, having no home games? Where did you guys train? And just, can you talk about the obstacles that the Haitian team, including you, had to go through to reach this point?
No, very difficult because you play a lot of the home games in neutral grounds. You don't get that many fans, and we are appreciative, obviously, of the fans that are people that are living in those countries that still come out and support. But the crowds aren't big. The fields can be very difficult, and you don't get that sense of truly home. So, what we've always had is each other as a group, and the support of our people back home. So that's kind of what's gotten us through, and just supporting each other through those hard times because it's not been an easy journey at all.
And that moment, the moment where the game is over, the final whistle. Describe to us that moment. Where were you exactly watching? What did you feel? What happened at that moment?
I had my jersey from the Honduras game that I got injured in. I had that one on, and I just took it off, threw it in, and started celebrating with my friends.
Yeah, you can just see the joy in his face, and that is a team that I think is going to be, that's going to be a Cinderella team at the World Cup. How can you not root for a Haitian team that's here for the first time in 52 years to overcome the obstacles that they did to get here? I'm sitting here hearing, a lot of the other teams in the World Cup that are coming from Europe and other parts of the world, they're here in the United States already scouting. Are they going to be staying at the Ritz-Carlton, or are they going to be staying at the Four Seasons? They're renting beautiful training grounds and facilities to get ready for the World Cup and stuff like that. Haiti, the Haitian team now going forward, also, they're going to need a lot of aid because that team does not have the financial backing that a lot of the other teams in the World Cup has. So they have a lot of things going against them, but they are a proud group and obviously a talented group. A lot of those players are playing in France professionally and in the United States and other places. And so just a really good feel-good story heading into the World Cup.
Michelle, you and I both, I think, over the years have covered Haitian athletes. We've written some incredible stories about them and their people, and just we're not we're not from that culture, but from a distance we can appreciate a little bit. I can't fathom it, what they've been through between earthquakes and political strife and things that have happened over and over.
Hurricanes,
I mean,
everything.
I wrote about the Edison girls a couple of years ago, and how a lot of them came over because they just had no one. They had no one. They had to be basically adopted here to be able just to seek a future in the U.S. and things like that. I mean, years ago, like 15 years ago, I think it was almost, I wrote about a kid, Varela, who's, when the earthquake, remember that really bad earthquake? I think it was in 2012.
Yes.
The kid lost his parents. The house just fell in. It was a tragic story, but it was one of those courageous stories. He went to college, played college
They're resilient.
football.
They're very resilient. Resilient
Yeah.
is the word I would use
I
for the
mean,
Haitian athletes. Yes.
yeah. So, I
They
mean,
find a way, and they found a way. They found a
yeah.
way to get into this World Cup.
I'm talking about it, and I'm remembering like talking to them, and it hits you when we're trained to be like unbiased and all that, but we're humans, so we're like when even just interviewing them, sometimes it gets to you because you're like, damn, I can't even like think of like what some of them have been through. So yeah, just really, really happy for them as a nation to be able to have something to look forward to, something to celebrate in the coming year or so. As the World Cup gets closer and closer, 2026 around the corner. Michelle, we're already
It's right around the corner. It's hard to
Thanksgiving
believe
week.
it's almost here.
We're almost done with 25, and then it's going to be a quick
By the way,
turnaround.
one more thing. Yeah, go
almost
ahead.
here. But another thing that's
Almost here.
Yeah.
One last thing before we sign off, I
No,
wanted to mention also, we had talked last week about we spoke about the new MLS schedule and all that stuff. But one scheduling thing I wanted to bring up that we didn't know when we had our last podcast is that they announced the MLS schedule for 2026 late last week. And Inter Miami will be playing its first 5 games on the road. The first 5 games are on the road to leave a construction cushion for the new stadium. The new stadium, Miami Freedom Park. Mark your calendars, everybody around the world. On the schedule, Miami will play its first MLS home game of 2026 at the brand new stadium on April 4th against Austin FC. April 4th against Austin will be the first MLS home game for Inter Miami. Lionel Messi and his teammates will play for the first time in that new stadium, which is being built right now. I did a tour last week to see how it's coming along. April 4th. So it's going to be a big year. They're going to start off with 5 road games. The stadium's going to open on April 4th for that game. And then the World Cup is going to be, a couple months away starting in June of 26. So we have a lot to look forward to.
It's a massive sports calendar year down here next year, but that's going to be a big part of it, of course, the World Cup. And Miami starting, I know we're talking a lot about the Freedom Park, but what an opener overall to start against LAFC at the LA Coliseum. You have Messi on one side, Son on the other side. We didn't get it in the MLS Cup. We're not going to get it in the MLS Cup. And about that, what a game that was. He scores, goes nuts. It goes to PKs, and in the end, Vancouver pulls it out and eliminates a team that I thought, and I think you'd agree with me. I think we both thought LAFC had a really good shot at getting to the final this year, but it just shows you the playoffs are crazy sometimes.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. So it was wild playoffs. We're going to see what happens this weekend. And a lot to look forward to just this weekend. Let's see what happens. Can they knock off New York City FC and keep this train going?
Saturday night, 6:00 at Chase Stadium, and then at 9:00, if you're watching Apple TV after that, is the Western Conference Final. That'll be Vancouver at San Diego. That tremendous San Diego season continues out there, and that'll decide that. At Snapdragon Stadium, cool name. We'll be back next week to talk about what happened in the Eastern Conference Final and set the table for MLS Cup, or maybe not. But let's just say there's a good vibe going right now. So we'll see what happens. Until then, for Michelle Kaufman, I'm Andre Fernandez. We'll be back next week with another episode of Inside Inter Miami. Thanks for watching, everybody.